Hey everybody, VixonJ here, back with another video. If you are new to this channel, please hit the subscribe button, like, share, do all that jazz. It really helps the channel grow. Appreciate y'all. Back with another video. I want to talk to you all a little bit about the Netflix series When They See Us. This is not really going to be a review of the series. I'm going to talk a little bit about it. But I really want to talk about the bigger issue that I've been seeing as it pertains to the series and how people have been responding to it or not responding to it. When this actual event happened, I was like a toddler. Watching the series from Ava DuVernay on Netflix was important for me because I've always heard about the Central Park Five, but I didn't really know the full gamut of the story behind it. And after watching this miniseries, I not only felt like I was more aware of these stories, I feel like I had a better sense of the political and social environment around that time. And long story short, for those who are not familiar with the story, it's a story about these young kids back in the late 80s that were running around in Central Park and just kind of just being kids, and they get caught up in being accused of a crime of raping this older white woman. And, these 5 kids go on trial for it, and they all end up being found guilty of the rape, even though there's so much evidence and so much other factors that determine that they're not. In the series, you see that they were somewhat coerced by the police to kind of say whatever they needed to say to kind of piece things together. And, that aspect of the story was really fucked up because it's like these kids were all innocent by every standard. There was so much evidence that was pointing towards them not even being remotely involved. But because, you have the image of this white woman being raped and, it being such a horrible, tragic crime, it had to be pinned on somebody. And who better in this social climate to pin the crime on some rambunctious, wilding black kids. Watching the series, I to be honest, I binged through it. I binged through all the episodes. It was like late at night, and I couldn't even believe I was like up watching it. But every episode, I had to like keep watching. It wasn't like, all right, I'm tired, I gotta put this down. Like after the end of each episode, it's like, all right, I gotta see what happens next. I gotta see what happens next. I gotta see what happens next. And the way that Ava told the story and told the narrative of each of the kids and what they had to go through and what they were going through with their families, and after they were found guilty or after they were accused of being guilty, and everything that they had to go through and how they grew up. It was so fascinating how they all had different journeys, but were going through similar things. One of the people involved, Corey Wise, in the series he's portrayed by an actor, but it's the last episode in that series, and it was for me the most painstaking of the episodes. It was just really, really tragic. The journey that particular character went through, and the Central Park Five, the actual gentlemen, are still here, and I think just understanding what they went through in real time, and then the series kind of retelling that story, I can only imagine, the emotions and everything that they must have been feeling. When I say it's important, I think it's important because it's not only something that actually happened, but in the sense of just understanding the politics of it all and understanding the system as it pertains to police and incarceration and black men. Not to say that we always need a reminder, but it's important to realize that these 5 individuals have been through so much, and it took a lot for them to finally be found innocent of the crime that they were accused of and be free to this day. Because most times systematically, some of these people don't find any sense of justice, or they're not exposed to any level of support in this case. And these gentlemen, for the grace of the person who actually committed the crime, coming forward and saying what they did, was inspiring to me. Inspiring that there is some type of faith in the justice system, or not saying I have faith in the justice system, but just the fact that there is a shimmer of hope, Even though when you watch the series, it's just like, oh my gosh, this is just fucked up beyond fucked up beyond fucked up. I don't want to go through a full review of it. I enjoyed it. I appreciate it for what it was. I think it's important that everybody watch it. But there are some people that I follow on social media and other platforms that decided that they are not going to watch this. Like, anti-watching it. Of course, they support Ava, the director, and they support the cause, and they support just, black filmmakers doing their thing, but they can't bring themselves to watch the series because of how heavy it is, and because of what it implies, and because of the actual things that happen in it. And as I said before, the last episode of that series is probably the heaviest because it focuses on one of the characters, and everything that he went through was really, really rough. So I can imagine that taking that level of hurt could really affect somebody. The bigger conversation I want to have is that a lot of us tend to want to avoid these images of black trauma. Probably shouldn't quote black trauma because it's real, Now, mind you, this is a Netflix series, so everything is, in essence, a narrative, but it's still based off of real events. We have actual real events that are happening that are very heavy. You see multiple videos of, police brutality. You have instances of Black Lives Matter. You see an innocent black kid on the ground either being, harassed by police or possibly shot, heaven forbid. And, these images we're bombarded with all the time. And it hurts, and it's tragic, and it does a lot to your spirit. I can completely understand that. But at the same time, in my opinion, I feel like trying to avoid these images dumbs us from the fact that they're happening. I mean, maybe I'm saying it the wrong way. I understand people's stances of not wanting to consume that type of content. Where, for example, like, let's say if there's a video of someone getting shot. Of course, I wouldn't want anyone to say, like, all right, go willingly watch that video. You have to watch this. You know what I'm saying? Though there are certain videos or there's certain forms of content that I personally would avoid. Like, I'm not trying to see anyone get shot on camera. I'm not trying to see anyone, like, get tussled down. Like, that for me is a lot for my spirit. But I feel specifically for this series, when they see us, it was just an important part of history. Even though the things that the characters went through were tragic, there was somewhat of a silver lining. The fact that they were found innocent and they are now free to walk. They're all older now, obviously, and they all have families and all these things, and they went through a lot. They lost their childhood because of this case. They were all kids when they were accused of this crime, and the amount of years that they had to lose because of the corruption of the system is really fucked up. So I get that. I just feel like when it comes to black trauma, there's only so much that we could avoid. Avoiding it or not watching it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not there, but the fact that it's happening, we can't just block out like, nope, sorry, I can't consume it. I just want to keep that negative stuff away from me. Yeah, I understand that too. I'm not saying that we have to bombard ourselves with these images, but at the same time, we shouldn't ignore them. They say that ignorance is bliss. And I think for certain people, they just want to stay ignorant to the fact that it's happening. It's like, all right, look, yeah, I heard about that. Nah, chill. I'm not trying to consume that. I'm not trying to watch it. But consuming it is more than just watching it. It's even just understanding that it's happening or knowing that it's happening. Some people just avoid that type of news altogether. Like, nope, don't want to hear about it. Nope, chill, nah, keep that away from me. And it's like, all right, fine. But that doesn't negate the fact that it's happening. You know what I mean? And there has to be some level of discernment as it pertains to these certain cases that you're at least in the know. For example, in the case of Sandra Bland, her case or, that particular story is just really, really sad. And, I think it's important that we're not trying to avoid those type of stories where it's like, all right, that's really sad what happened to Sandra. Nah, but I just can't even consume that because it's just too much for my spirit. It's like, that story should be heard because someone innocently, was killed for a crime that they didn't even commit or for something that wasn't that serious. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the type of stories that should be blasted because it's like these are the instances of injustice that happen in our communities and their voices and their stories deserve to be heard. I think it's the same thing as it pertains to when they see us. Like, these 5 gentlemen have been through so much shit. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that there are young generations that may not even have known about the Central Park Five like this, and having to learn it through this medium, I think is important. And it's also important for white people to watch this. At my job, I asked people through the messaging app that we use if they watched it. And I didn't really get much of a response until someone said, "Oh, yeah, I saw about it and I was kind of curious and I figured I'd catch it." Can't say I'm really surprised that not much people were kind of gravitating towards that. Whether they probably knew about it and they just wanted to avoid it, or just like, "Oh, right, yeah, that thing about that incident. All right, whatevs." I know for black people, it certainly hits harder to home than most. And once again, I understand why people are trying to avoid it, but it is really a good series. And yes, it's a very heavy topic. And yes, it might be a lot for your spirit. So I'm not encouraging anyone to binge it like I did. I was just fascinated with the storytelling of it all. But if it is heavy, yeah, watch an episode, take a moment, take a breath, and then tackle another episode another time. You don't have to all consume it at one go, but I think it's very important that the series be watched. There are certain things that are really important that need to be seen and need to be discussed, and conversations to be had, and things to not really be forgotten. Because let's say if Ava never made the series, let's say if the five gentlemen from Central Park Five, they're living their lives now. One of the gentlemen currently lives in New York City where I live, but they're all kind of living their lives. And the fact that, this incident happened, 20 some odd years ago, this is just one of the many scenarios where innocent black men are being found innocent of a crime that they didn't commit and getting out years later, right? This is just one that was more bigger in the scale of the exposure to it as it pertained to, like, media, But there's so much other cases of black men or people incarcerated being found guilty years later for crimes that they didn't commit, and it's sad, and it sucks, and there needs to be some type of voice shouting this message of it not being okay and these injustices. We're having that conversation. We're opening up that dialogue. We're having this meaningful discourse about what the series means, and bringing back something that, might have been in the past, but still somewhat happens today. I think having that conversation at least is the first step to making some type of change. So thank you all for watching. Appreciate it once again. If you have not done so already, like, comment, share, sub to the channel, and I'll be back with another one. Thank you all for watching. Fade out.